On the line, Carlton coach Michael Malthouse. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
You agree it's hurting football, this whole mess?
Oh, absolutely. It's hurting football. And it's hurting football people in ways that some of us probably don't appreciate. And I'm saying this because I'm behind the scenes and in the scenes as a football coach. I see 17 other, and these are only some of the ones that I believe have been affected by it, and their families. Let me tell you, I can categorically tell you this, that we're looking at the 17 other clubs that have a science division. They've all been cast in a position now where people don't trust the AFL. And I've got to say, Andrew didn't do them any favours by suggesting that we'd need to cut back on science divisions and so forth. In fact, science divisions are actually the ones that look at players' development and look at them, make sure that they actually, when they finish football, they are still normal, if we can say it that way, and their bodies don't cave in on them. So I think that they've been cast into a very, very villainous position, and I say that their families are suffering because of that, because there's the uncertainty about qualifications, do they still have jobs and so forth. Then you look at the other 17 clubs. I think the player groups, they've all been victims of this as well, because they don't know. You know, the common thing that comes out of Essendon, which is I'm really staggered, is that it doesn't enhance your progress as a player. Well, why have they done it? They've done it for a particular reason. We all know that something has happened, so it's not as if I'm trying to...
No, that's right.
So Essendon have done something that is there to enhance them as footballers. Now, whether it be legal or illegal, that's up to WADA and ASADA. But the simple fact is that they've done something, so therefore 17 other clubs most likely haven't, so therefore they are victims of that. And the ones that I fear for most of all, and I'll go back and I'll be very brief with this Neil, but in 1985 I got invited, along with a lot of Footscray people, to the LA Rams, and it occurred to me at the time when someone said to me, we've got a wide receiver, and he was the fourth runner in the 400 metre 4x1 and 4x400. How he got there, we don't know, but we know the fifth player, the fifth runner, you'll never know his name because he didn't make it. And it's that line ball to make it. And I'm saying that there's so many kids out there. The average wage of an AFL footballer is something like $268,000. Outside of the money, it's the glory of playing AFL football. Every kid wants to make it, and if he can see some methodology that's going to give him a slight advantage. I know hundreds of kids go and do these beep tests so that when they get tested, they are in charge of these beep tests. To me, it has not a lot of relevance on whether you're a good footballer or not. But for some mystery reason, we judge a lot of players on, he does a 15 beep test, he must be fantastic. Yeah. Not the fact that he's trained up for it. So if you give them an opportunity to take or do something or inject something that makes them better, you don't reckon they're going to get out there and do it?
The kids will do it, so it's a responsibility of the officials and the club to make sure they're looked after and don't do it, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely it is. Well, I think it goes beyond that. I think it's up to the AFL to point it out absolutely without any fear of hesitation, saying this is illegal or this is not what the appropriate methods are, and we will not put up with it, and if we find that you will not be eligible for the draft. But we can't say that because nothing's happened to the Essendon players. Nothing's happened to the Essendon Football Club, really. So I've said before, and I know I've said to you privately, strong governance is what's required here more than any other issue, that we're going to be judged on the governance of the game over this, not what happens to Essendon, not how much the lawyers are getting, how many days it's taken, or they've dragged it over into 2014. It's going to be how strong our governance is of this game, because it's got massive ramifications.
But if Essendon is found, if charges are found proven, don't they have to, in a sense, be made an example of?
Absolutely, and I'll say this too, that if WADA or ASADA find the players have taken illegal drugs, the one common thing that comes out of every meeting that I've been to with a player group, when you've got someone from the drug agencies talking, they go through a whole rigmarole of things, but they finish off by saying, you are singularly responsible for what goes into your body. No one else. You can't blame anyone else for suggesting or giving. You are responsible.
But is that fair to an AFL player, given what we just said about them being willing to do anything to make themselves into AFL players? Is it fair they might trust their club?
Well, Neil, I'm only going by what I've heard, and if in fact they've left the premises to be injected, wouldn't there be cause for suspicion
Yes.
among the leadership group to say, hey, I can only go in the leadership groups that I've had, and I would be suggesting that they'd be saying, Mick, why are we signing these forms? Why do we need to sign these forms? Why are we going off premises to have these supplements injected into our bodies? Why can't we do it in our clinically clean rooms in front of our club doctor? What is this all about? That'd be the first question I would be asking at a senior football club.
We see that's not over for the players yet. They're still being investigated.
No, it's not over for the players. But Asada Awara, I don't know how long they take to, they say that they work part-time and they work behind the scenes at their pace. Well, I can understand why the league trying to get this done before the final series, but Essendon seem just as determined to make sure it's not. It's going to be who's got the biggest pocket, or who's got the biggest voice, or who's got the nerve to carry this right through. I think the league there's no doubt the league have been challenged in the past, but it's never got to this stage, and I think Essendon seem to be strong enough, and they're going to protect their own to take it to any lengths to make sure they clear the name, or at least let them have value for this year.
Are you also saying, though, that if it's found to have happened, that the players do carry some responsibility?
I feel we have. We're in no illusions there. I feel sorry right now for young Sard. He's taken...
Down St Kilda, yeah.
Yeah, if everything's true to form there, a mate has given him something, he's taken it. It's a supplement apparently you could take outside of the playing year, but he's taken it in season. That's his risk. But he now risks 2 years. And yet we're talking, well, we'll scratch your back, you scratch ours, and you admit to this, and we'll do this. And I know we're not going to know the full extent of that until it actually comes out. There's a lot of mystery and there's a certain lot of innuendo. But in Sard's case, I just think that we're prioritising something that we need to get our head around the fact that has the rule been broken, there's no leniency, because we are all very aware of the drug code in AFL, which is world code. So I don't think there's an out. And if there is, I think you'll find that there's going to be a lot of clubs, a lot of players for the future will say, well, look, it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me.
Really?
We'll be challenged. Well, I just don't... People continually test the boundary. We've seen it in rowing, we've seen it in bike riding, we've seen it in boxing, we've seen it in baseball. We will continually see people try to get a leverage to get to a sport they love and get to the very top.
So you worry about your players, don't you? Not just Carlton, but Collingwood. You've talked before about you feel a responsibility. They are kids, most of them, and you feel a responsibility for their lives, for their health, and for everything else.
We rob them of their youth. But there's no doubt about that. We try to make an 18-year-old into a mid-20-year-old within the first 12 months and give him disciplines that are far beyond the general youth that goes out on a Friday night, Saturday night, and then recovers on Sunday, back to work on Monday, and away they go. We rob them of their youth, but and the excuse will be, oh, you pay them well, but they don't go in the game for too long. The thing that I worry about most of all about any of our players, I think there are more mental problems with players these days than there ever has been. I've been in the game for 40 years, and I can tell you now that there are the mental problems with players will get further because of the pressures of media, probably the pressures of performing, probably pressures from partners, pressures from the football club, pressures from their peers, their parents. We're seeing players now, we're employing people to look after them mentally as much as we are physically. And that's going to, I think it can only increase because we're putting more and more strain on relationships. Well, we just don't treat them as kids anymore. We try to make them adults very, very quickly. They lose their innocence.
Do you think all this is going to change football? Might have to.
Well, I think it's going to test the AFL. I think it's going to test their resolve to make sure that these things don't appear the way that this one has. It's sort of, I have no idea whether the AFL had an inkling of this. My understanding is that there was an inkling of it last year, and it was sort of brushed aside. And I feel that if you're going to brush something aside, now I know I'm speaking here of rumour, but it was a strong rumour to suggest that there were certain elements of this were noted, but it wasn't never going to come as big as it was. Now, had it been nipped in the bud early, perhaps we wouldn't have this thing hanging over. It's a shocking thing to be hanging over a code. We've seen it in baseball in America. I reckon they got that wrong. And we've seen it in bike riding. Now no one trusts whoever wins it. Whoever wins the Tour de France, they go straight away, well, what's he on?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a terrible, terrible state. Cadell Evans, everyone says, oh, he's clean. Well, there'll be people out there saying, he can't be. You can't win if you're clean.
Which is rough, yeah.
Oh, very tough.
Final point. We could go into the finals with Essendon losing their points. Could get you into the finals. What do you think about that?
I don't reckon that the Essendon Football Club and their lawyers will allow that to take place. I think there's going to be a shambles at the end of this year, because I think that anything can be pressed into the court system and delayed and delayed and delayed. We know that the longer you delay things, the more resolve that people need to hang in there. I can't see this being concluded until well after the season. In fact, I think that 2014 is, even then, I think there's going to be things that the AFL will have to put into place to protect the integrity of 2014 season, let alone 2013.
It wouldn't be a good way to get into the finals anyway, would it?
Well, it would leave you with a very poor taste, and there'd have to be an asterisk next to your name to say you made the finals because of, and we all know what that because of would be.
Mick, I appreciate your time. Take care.
Thanks, Neil. All the best.
Carlton coach Mick Malthouse. As I've said before, I've been out Carlton, watched them train, spent some time with the players and in the coach's box, and and talked to the sports scientists out there. And I remember them joking then about how their reputation was being damaged and doing nothing wrong. And I do understand Mick Malthouse has this sort of passion for the kids that he coaches, and they are kids, a lot of them, and his responsibility to care for them. Jeff Kennett says the same thing from when he was at Hawthorn.